everyone. Welcome to today's live session with the Zubin Foundation. Please like and share this live, whichever part you are in the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We have a very important topic to discuss today, and that's going to be dealing with daily stress. Let's start by gauging with our audience familiarity with this topic. Please type in yes if you've experienced daily stress in your life. All right, you have four viewers. Hello, everyone. Please like and share this live. All right, so in our fast paced lives, stress can be overwhelming, but we're here to share strategies and insights on how to manage it effectively. I'm your host, Lisa, and we're joined by our special guest from the Zubin Foundation, Priya Agrawal.
Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
Priya.
Hi, Lisa.
All right, so Priya Agrawal is our speaker today. A counselor with a master's in clinical psychology with over 15 years of experience. She is fluent in Hindi, Nepali, Urdu, and English, making her an excellent communicator across diverse communities. We are fortunate to have her expertise and dedication from the Zubin Foundation. Welcome, Priya. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me over.
And Priya, it looks like we have a lot of yes responses. That's completely understandable, right? As stress is something we all encounter in our daily lives. Today, we're going to explore effective ways to manage it and cope with it. So, before we jump into our main topic, let's get to know more about our speaker today and the Zubin Foundation.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session on dealing with daily stress. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking out your this precious time this afternoon to engage on this important issue. So today's session, we will be learning about what is stress, what are the main reasons we feel stress, how it affects our body and mind, and definitely then the ways that we can deal with the stress effectively. We all know that it is inevitable. We cannot erase stress from our life. We experience it on every day, every minute basis. But how do we deal with it? So we're going to be talking more about that in detail. So I encourage a lot of participation from all of you guys. So if you have any questions, suggestions, do type in the chat box. Um, a little about me. So my name is Priya Agrawal. I come from Nepal. I've done my master's in clinical psychology, and it's been about 15 years that I'm working in the area of mental health. I can speak several languages, having lived in India, Nepal, and now in Hong Kong for a couple of years. So I can speak Hindi, Nepali, Urdu, and English. Um, I work with the Zubin Foundation as a counselor. We run ethnic minority well-being center where we meet people having basically different mental health concerns, emotional concerns that the center works with. A little bit information on what Zubin Foundation does. Zubin Foundation aims at improving the lives of ethnic minorities by reducing their suffering and providing opportunities. And we do this by having different outreach programs in the community and driving systemic changes. There are different projects with us in Zubin Foundation that focuses on women and girls, job and opportunities, children and parents, mental health, that's where I work in that department, and lastly is the emergency relief. As I said that with the Ethnic Minority Wellbeing Center, we offer free services on well-being checkup and counseling, and we have different counselors who can speak different languages. Um, Yes, so coming to the point of stress, what stress is, and some of the facts about stress. I'm sure stress is a term that all of us are familiar with. And we all know what stress feels like. Um, what does stress really mean to all of us could be different. Um, what stress is really is it is a biological response to a perceived threat, basically. So when you have more demand than your desired capacity to meet those demands, we all experience stress. And then the body responds in a different way of a fight or a flight. So you either meet those demands and you work effectively in response to that, or you just run away and you just shut down completely that I can't deal with it. Um, you may be flooded with the thoughts about future, a lot of our daily to-do lists, that there's so many things to be done. And what happens really, rather than focusing on one thing at a time, we often are bombarded with those thoughts, which is very difficult to escape with. That results in acute stress for us. So, as I said, that we all feel stressed all the time, but how one individual sees stress compared to the other one can be different. For an example, you know, let's say of cooking, that some of you would love, would be thrilled with the idea of trying out a new dish, whereas it can really paralyze some of us that, oh my god, how do I do it? And there's so much to do it, basically. And even these basic things, these basic thoughts can really cause us stress, resulting in not being able to cook effectively, just going by that example, or making certain mistakes which may be very trivial. So, but understanding stress isn't bad all the time. If we remember our wedding day, we all were nervous, we all had cold feet, we all were stressed. And perhaps that's a good form of stress, is what we say. So, life being what it is not possible to eliminate all the stress completely, but we can definitely learn to avoid it whenever possible and manage it when it is unavoidable. So, as I said, that not all stress is bad. Um, there is a good stress and there is a bad stress. As we all understand that it should be temporary, whatsoever that we experience in terms of stress, it should be short term. Experiencing a bit of stress can make us work harder and increase our adaptation to life's difficulties. Moderate amount of stress can help improve our alertness and boost memory and performance. So, the stress response is designed to help us react when something potentially threatening is happening, to help us deal with it and learn from it. But when stress is acute, what happens is where we start experiencing the physical symptoms, where which could be potentially harmful for your physical and mental health. Many of us know stress as a silent killer too. At times we've heard of, with with constant stress, basically, that we experience, it can result in heart disease, heart high blood pressure, chest pain, severe headache, or irregular heartbeats. So while it is a myth that stress can only turn your hair gray, no, it can also cause huge hair loss, basically. It also causes acne and triggers allergies and many digestion related issues, basically. So when stress is good for you to perform and be effective, stress can also be bad if not tackled it well, and if you're experiencing, any one of us, if we are experiencing it for a prolonged period of time. So what are some common causes of stress? As I have listed it here, I think most of us, we experience stress because of major life changes. There are external and internal factors that I have I look at it from that perspective, like, the external factors such as work, financials, family, health problems, and internal factors such as your own feelings of failure or uncertainty. So, stress can also be caused by, as we know, day to day activities such as, household chores, driving, or by one's surroundings, such as loud noise or cluttered space or very small place in Hong Kong for us. So, significant life events such as divorce or, loss of someone can also cause significant stress. Um, None of us can deny that you are the superpower to Hong Kong's population, and the job, you're doing, which is making so much impact on everyone's daily life. And at the same time, we also know that all of you are the main breadwinner for your family. And some of you have left your family and have not seen your children for a long period of time. So homesickness is normal basically, which we all experience. I am away from my family, same as yours. And we do know that, it is experienced on everyday basis when we decide to move overseas. And we may have a constant feeling to connect with our family, go back and see them often. And that feeling could also lead or result into a lot of stress for us. At the same time, what we understand that, with COVID and, still life getting back to normal, the demands of your job has really increased, as the families across the globe, in fact, are spending more time at home than going to workplace, as it was, the earlier normal. And now the new normal is, we most of us, we still have not gotten back to the office space completely, and that adds on to a lot of workload that you take care of. And certainly that could add on to a lot of stress that you experience on day to day life. We also know there are extremely long working hours and average wages basically that you may have, um, where you may have to meet a lot of that financial demands back in your home country. I was looking at some researches, Lisa, and here what I came across, that there's a huge agency fee that not only the employers that have to pay, but also the workers who decide to move overseas has to be paid. And what I hear, I think according to Helper's Choice survey, 48% of migrant domestic workers have been overcharged during their recruitment process. That was quite an amazing, I think, it's quite surprising, basically, that in some cases there are about 6 months of salary that is paid to these agencies. Yeah. And when we know there is already some debt back home, the burden of taking care of the family back home, and along with these additional fees, it puts a lot of burden on an individual, which of course could be really stressful. Um,
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
so living abroad, also we do know that, it at times, sorry, I think, as I've mentioned somewhere, that there is at times what we've heard, that there is no compensation for working on off days. I've had some encounters where I've heard from people that, they're not even given a weekly off basically, which is not again, like, which
Oh,
is against the Hong Kong law. However, there is a understanding, but then of course it leads to a lot of stress and anxiety, for the worker to just stay by and not have their own time. There's a lot of demand and strictness that could be, the perfectionism from your employer that could result in, I think, in meeting that expectation and matching up to it, which could result in a lot of stress. Of course, back home, as we said, that there is a long distance relationship that you are looking at, that you are kind of experiencing, you are living every day, and of course it is not easy for any one of us, which definitely leads to a lot of stress, could be potentially a lot of conflict that we may see even in those relationships. With my experience, what I have seen whenever I've spoken to some of the clients, where they've said that it does, I think, leaving the family behind, where the family is vulnerable and you are emotionally vulnerable, being away from the family could lead to that stress and anxiety. And how do we manage that anxiety? How do we build that gap, basically, which we will be talking about. So maintaining long distance relationship could add on to a lot of stress for us. Also, we know that living abroad, basically, it does exposes us to a lot of temptations, like getting into forbidden relationships, falling into the trap of addiction. A lot of these things. There are other crimes which we have heard, because of these temptations, could also destroy your relationship back home, and um, uh, your career, basically, where you may have to compensate. But that is a lot of stress for any one of us, I guess, first getting there and being in this situation. So living away from family and dear ones does not always end well, and there is a constant thinking and worrying about the families back home. The decision to be away from your loved one can be very difficult, which could result in acute stress, as I said. So, the emotional burden for you could be really heavy, where some of you leave your children who are just a few months old and have been working in Hong Kong, while it's been 10 years, 15 years for you guys, as the children have grown there, and seeing them once, maybe in 2 years or something like that. Um, so, we do see, I think, there is a lot of guilt associated because of moving abroad, because of the relationship which may be strained because of your decision to move abroad. Um, your family members may assume that you're living a high standard of life back in the fancy metropolitan city, which is definitely not how it is all the time. Could also add on to, how do you kind of explain and match up to the expectation that they have. So these are I think one of the more common reasons that we experience stress. How does it affect us? We all know that when we are stressed, all of us feel something. If any one of you have noticed that, whenever you are stressed, your body launches a physical response, basically. So what happens is your nervous system springs into action, releasing hormones that prepare you to either fight or take off. It is called like flight or fight response, as I said. And that's why when you are in a stressful situation, your heartbeat speeds up, your breathing gets faster, your muscle tenses up, and you start to sweat. Sometimes the stress can be short term and temporary, and your body may recover very quickly. But when we experience any form of stress for a long period of time, it can aggravate some more serious health problems. So, as I have listed it into four different buckets, basically, that stress affects your thinking, your power to think basically clearly. When you're stressed, you would notice that you can't concentrate on your tasks that you are doing. You may not remember, so you've been asked to do certain tasks and you may just not be able to remember because your memory gets impaired because of stress. You are not able to take appropriate judgment, and you're constantly worrying. Your mind is occupied basically with that negative thinking or whatever that you are experiencing at that moment. As I said, it results in negative thinking and poor decision making. Stress affects emotions, and there are many emotions, but I've just listed a few here. That when we are stressed, we are more anxious, we are irritable, we snap very easily, we are not able to relax and always on the edge. we're feeling overwhelmed, and even when we have friends around or we have people around, but still we feel like, oh, it's just me and nobody else, and we have this huge feeling of loneliness, and all of this combination results into depression. Behavior, as we know that again, stress impacts thinking, feelings, and then behavior is when you eat less or you don't feel hungry, or you just kind of get into binge eating. A lot of time I'll see the people eating a full packet of chips along with their meal, which is not required, but it's kind of considered as a binge eating pattern. You sleep more or no sleep at times. This could also be because of your work, but at times, even if whatever your assigned rest hours, let's say, we may just not feel sleepy because we are constantly thinking and worrying about whatever has happened or whatever is happening or is going to happen, that we are worried about basically, and that kind of affects our sleeping. We tend to make more mistakes at work. We feel more isolated, as I said, that it's where we feel the sense of loneliness and we feel that we are alone in this fight. We tend to pick up on fights because we have become very sensitive, so we tend to pick up on more fights. We engage in drinking, smoking, or drugs. We spend more time on the phone, or some of us may experience lower sex drive. Some of the body symptoms, that is basically to for you to be more aware of, so these symptoms, when you are experiencing, it's more for your understanding that, oh, I have these feelings or I'm experiencing these body symptoms, is where I'm experiencing something then normal stress, and that's where then we can talk about how do you reach out for help. But some of these body symptoms could be constant headache, body pain, feeling your own heartbeat, tremors, difficulty in breathing, excessive sweating, nausea, dizziness, and other digestive problems. So overall, what I have said, I think how I have prepared this picture is that it can have a very negative effect on your mind and the body, and it can worsen, or it can cause a lot of health problems such as headache, muscle tension, chest pain, fatigue, upset stomach, high blood pressure, etc. So stress can also affect how our body, how our food moves through our body, and causing diarrhea, constipation, or pain in the bowels. So, talking about the stress management tools, effective stress management helps you the break the stress from your life so you can be happier, healthier, and more productive. But the ultimate goal is to have a balanced life with time for work, relationship, and relaxation and fun. So, following stress management tips can help you basically on how do you get there. I've listed into four again: understanding your own stressors, stopping the stress cycle, prevent stress by following the healthy routine, and seek professional help if you find things just unmanageable for yourself. So, as we've spoken about, the stress can be external and internal. It can be it can be recent or more chronic, like which is you're experiencing it from quite some time. But it is extremely important to identify the sources of stress in your life, which may not be very straightforward. But when you go through the life, when you basically try and identify these stressors, that what is making me feel stressed, and when you start naming your thoughts, that I am not liking it, I'm not feeling up for it, what is it? And when you start naming it, what happens that you don't overlook your feelings, you don't overlook your thoughts and behaviors, but you kind of acknowledge what's happening and what's resulting into your everyday stress basically. So um, when you are able to identify, try and If you can write, or if you can, I think all of us have mobile phones, and there are very good apps called thought journals, stress diary, etc. If you can just try and log in to understand what you are feeling, why you are feeling that way, what is the stress, as I said, what is the source of the stress, is there something in your environment that's making you stressed, or many a times what we see that it's something in your own thinking pattern that makes you stressed. And it's only when you start logging in or start identifying, as I said, that you're able to understand what do I need to work on, is it my environment or is it myself. So each time you feel stressed, keep track of it in your journal and use a stress tracker on your phone basically. Keeping a daily log will enable you to see the patterns and common theme. So write down what caused you stress, how you felt both physically and emotionally, how you acted there, and what did you do to feel better there. So you would also know your ways of coping in those situations. um, Certainly learn to name no, learn I think we all have to know our boundaries. um, we need to learn to say no and distinguish between shoulds, musts, and whenever possible, I guess that saying no when you're taking too much on yourself, it's not that you're avoiding, but what you're saying that I just need some break and I can get back to it. So it's not that you're shying away, but you just able to put forward if you are and whenever you are, I guess that helps in building that communication as well. If someone is causing you consistent stress in your life, try and limit the amount of time that you spend with that person. Many times we would hear that, oh, when we are on our day off, this is what we do, but this is what we don't enjoy. It doesn't help, but that's the only support that we have. And then every week, back to back, it's the same thing. Ultimately, what's happening is you're not enjoying that time. So, how would you, if you don't break that cycle, how will you create something else for yourself if it's only by limiting yourself, or at least again understanding that this is not for me, so I need to have something else for myself. When dealing with, sometimes I think, the stubborn kids of your employers, or some of us, we do experience or may have toxic employers, we need to have patience and also the firmness so that they respect and recognize your boundaries. You don't have to take everything personally, but what you need to do is, when we are proactive and what we are needed to do, whatever we have on our task list basically, they will also respect and develop the trust that it's not, again, that you're shying away or you're just kind of, not doing things, but it's just that you're asking for that space when it is too much. And ultimately we cannot avoid that toxicity because that's not yours, so don't attach yourself to people who are toxic. That's not because of you, that's because that's how they are. So it's extremely important to take control of your environment when try and reach out for help. Remember your focus basically, that what you're here for, think about your goals in life, and this could help you find the strength and determination to overcome the challenges at your workplace. And definitely practice more of here and now, that this is what's I'm here, and this is no permanent, this will change. So even the situations that you're experiencing which is resulting in stress will also change. So when you practice positive self statements, that could also really help you breaking that stress cycle. Some of the things that you can do to change your mood is, when you get to go out, look at the nature, listen to music. It is so beautiful. When I moved to Hong Kong, I started seeing, everybody in the park, I guess, playing music, doing some dancing on something, doing Zumba and things, and I would join with them because it is so lively. And of course, that's your time. Let's say, while you're walking the dog, look at it as not just walking the dog, but also you're finishing your steps, you are exercising, and in whatsoever form. It's also about making the most of that situation and restructuring your own thoughts of just looking at it as a work or looking at it as your time, your me time, basically. um, Sign up for a new hobby if time permits you, join your community, go to church, build that support network, whatever. uh, I have someone I know that I would reach out to, that because she is so good in gardening, and so whenever I need some tips, I would go to her and then, like, hey, I need your help to help me pick up some plants, or how do I manage my own plants and everything. And it's beautiful. Bake if it interests you, uh, which could help you change your mood. uh, Express your feeling instead of bottling up. If something or someone is bothering you, be more assertive and communicate your concerns in a more respectful way. If you don't voice your feelings, ultimately the resentments will build up and the stress will increase further. So it's important to communicate than just kind of bottling it inside you. Be willing to compromise. When you ask someone to change their behavior, you should also be willing to do the same. If you both are willing to bend at least a little, you'll have a good chance of finding a middle ground. Look at the bigger picture, basically. Um, Trick perspectives of the stressful situation. Ask yourself how important it will be in the long run. Will it really matter in a month, a year? Is it really worth getting upset over it? And if the answer is no, then focus your time and energy somewhere else. At times, it is also important to adjust your standards. I think, I would hear sometimes that perfectionism, this is how it is, but it's also is a major source of stress. So stop setting yourself up for the failure by demanding perfection. Set reasonable standards for yourself and others and learn to be okay, even if it's good enough in situations. Lastly, don't take control of uncontrollables. Many things in life are beyond our control, particularly the behavior of other people, as I was just talking about. So rather than stressing out over them, focus on the things that's in your control, as and the way you choose to react to those problems. So as I was just saying, that if you have some toxicity around you, you can't change that, but how you can respond to it and how you not absorb all of that in you is really up to you. And lastly, as I said, that I don't think, try and create a balanced schedule for yourself. Practice gratitude. When stress is getting you down, take a moment to reflect on all the things that you appreciate in your life, including your positive qualities and everything that's going that way. And lastly, learn to forgive. Use humor, have fun whenever as possible. And if you see that stress is overpowering you, is when try and seek professional help. There are many agencies in Hong Kong, that they are there to help us through these situations, basically. So I think there are agencies like Help for Domestic Helpers, Christian Action, Mind HK is running some program, um, where you can go and discuss if you have any basically mental health related matters. There are many myths around counseling, but remember, counseling provides a safe space. It helps you share your difficult emotions and thoughts, which is totally confidential and non-judgmental. So try and try and find, I think, help for yourself in a healthier way than engaging in some things that is that could add on to your stress than releasing your stress. So it's time for you now.
All right. Thank you so much for that very valuable insights, Ria. Yeah, now I'd like to hear from our audience. What are the most common sources of your stress you encounter in your daily work as a domestic worker? And how do you currently handle these stressors? You can comment. And yeah, I agree with you. It's really essential to recognize our stress triggers, Priya, so we can handle it in our everyday life. All right. So now, our audience, it's your chance to ask questions or seek advice on managing stress with Priya, our counselor. Feel free to comment your questions. So, just comment your questions and Priya will answer it. While waiting for our audience to ping their questions, yeah, Priya, I have some questions for you. Maybe what are the potential long-term effects of unmanaged daily stress, and how can we mitigate them?
Sorry, if I get your question right, Lisa, that is how do we manage the long term stress?
Yeah, what are the potential long-term effects of unmanaged daily stress?
All right. See, when you, I think as we divided it into a recent stress or the chronic stress. So if you say this is a chronic stress that you've been experiencing it for from quite some time, you need to understand what's really happening and what is the source. As I said, that what is the exact source of your stress, and now, as I said, that now it could be from your environment. There could be something in your environment that is non-workable, and then what do you do to do that, to change that? So for an example, that if I remember from one of my sessions with one of the persons, where they said that that the employer is someone who is extremely toxic and who is totally non-negotiable on anything. And how do you do that? Because if you don't get your sleep time, you're sleeping at 2 o'clock and waking up at 6 for the next day again. How is that possible? Where now there is a choice. Basically, I know it is quite a difficult situation. Is where first of all try and understand where is your where are you spending your 18 hours, basically your 20 hours of the day, and if it is really required. So I think you have to have a dialogue with your employer, for an example, on what's really happening, because 2 years you cannot sustain like this, right? If it is on everyday basis. So have a dialogue, try and understand that if you can really match to that expectation, right? Third, reach out to your community and support network. How they manage it, how are they managing it? Four, try and reach out to the community supports on really what's happening and what can be done, right? And lastly, then take a decision for yourself. I know which is not very easy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
But when
but
it comes to, yeah, and I'm sorry, when it comes to, I think, working on the environment, in this example, this is what it is. But then many a times, as I said, that I will, if it's me, I would, how am I spending my 18 hours? Why do I need to buy my work?
yeah,
Change something in that pattern that I have. And the potential effects of the long term stress, as I said, could be more physical and behavioral.
okay.
Physical can be, you may experience headaches all the time. You may have
Mhm.
heart palpitations, which is not that you have heart disease, but then because you're stressed and anxious most of the time, you're worrying about things all the time. You may have, again, as I said, that you may get irritated very quickly. You may not be able to concentrate, may have memory problems. You may not be able to remember clearly. You may be making more mistakes at work.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much, Priya, for that, for answering my question. Yeah, we have here coming from an audience. She said, Here, stresses on what to prepare for food for everyday menu planning, especially when the employer is picky eater. So this is one of her stress every day.
Thank you so much for your question. And I know it's quite an interesting one for all of us. I deal with it with my daughter, let's say, on what is it that you want to eat. And she's a picky eater. And I understand. I think here, setting that communication, if the employer is your pick, if your employer is a picky eater, I think, sitting with him and getting those 20 dishes listed for the week or the month that they like, and how they like it cooked, basically, so that you have the set expectation on that you're making things that is on their menu, not on your menu, basically. So having that dialogue is really important. And and I think, when you have those things clearly for yourself, you're also not confused and mixing up. So it sets the expectation for them that they have asked for it, and you are not confused on making something else for them, which is not on, like, because they're picky eater, they are not someone who is experimentative, let's say.
Correct. We also have here from, actually these are their stress every day. So from Ellen Lagumba, yeah. Actually, Ellen is our ambassador, yeah. Stress come from people or things surrounding us. Calm yourself, think positive of how we can manage the stress free. Yeah, it's like all right, yeah. I think this is one of her inputs, insights about stress as well. We also
Yes.
have here from uh, Norse Ativo Combao. I'm experiencing all of that so much stress with my employment now. Oh yeah, this is true. For those who are looking for employers, especially those terminated or any status of their employment right at the moment. So there are times that really they encounter this stressor.
No, I agree definitely. When we are looking for an employment, and even that could be really stressful. But as we just talked about, that you made a decision, that's important, because that's the most difficult situation for any one of us, right? To make that decision
Yeah,
of moving abroad. And then second is, I think here exactly some of the things that we talked about. There are so many Facebook pages where you can sign up for, or basically you can put an advert for that you're looking for a job. You can reach out to your friends who are working in those countries, and having that word of mouth on, if you're looking for a job, so that they can make a recommendation for you. Reaching to the agencies, I guess, the lastly, basically. But I know it's more of a patience space that you need to be in, because as we just talked about, that everything changes. So it's not that this is gonna be forever. When, if you, as I said, that when you made up your mind, you will find it, because you're looking for it. So focus on your journey, then the destination. Because what we are worrying about, the destination, oh, why didn't I get any response today? But what we need to remember, that I sent 10 applications today, and this is where I need to focus on.
yeah. Focus on your journey. All right. And I think we don't have a lot of questions, but it's like their inputs about the stress. For me, it's usually the time management from Emily D. Barcelon. She said, for me, it's usually the time management. The change of schedule really hits me the hardest. Any suggestion on how to cope with it? Yeah,
Um,
she has the question at the later part.
Definitely, I agree with you, Emily, that the change of schedule can affect all of us. Now, understand, once again, go back to your duties and try and figure out what is it which is difficult, and what is it which is still manageable. So instead of focusing only on the hardest, I think when we kind of scale it, you will see how much of it is hard and what is easy. So try and bring in your strengths there. What is easy? What is doable? What am I able to manage? And then focus on what is hard. So I think on an average, what we see is mostly our own thinking pattern that affects that feeling of experiencing the hardest. So when you see that like everything is hard, then even the easier one seems hard. But when you kind of, as I said, when you kind of extract that, oh, these are manageable, but these four things are very difficult, then you are working on those specific strategies for Just those four ones, basically. So, one, change your approach here. Uh, Second, as I said, that instead of overgeneralizing the entire thing as hardest, list down what is hard and then make specific strategies to overcome those difficult tasks for yourself. Because situation will, it's not that, the schedule will change back again immediately. So if this is the situation, I think perhaps it's a bit more of, that you need to fix things in your own way of approaching that situation.
Yeah, it's correct. Time management. You just have to like prioritize what's your priority for today and see what's the next one, the
What's
minor
the,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Priya, we don't have a lot of questions coming from our audience. That's I think the last one from our audience. Um, yeah, you can let's practice what we've learned with a relaxation exercise. You prepared?
Yes, we have a lot of comments coming here, but yeah. Can we move on to the mindfulness exercise?
Um, I think we have one last question came in. Can you answer this one?
Sure.
Um, Let me just pop it up. Here you go. Every from Iris M Labrador. Every day I'm dealing with kid with ADHD. It is very stressful every time she pick an argument with me. Worst is she doing it on purpose not to listen. She's undergoing treatment right now, but sometimes I can't help myself not to argue back since she will say something rude words. Anyway, I can't control this stress. Thank you so much. It's more like she's telling what she's feeling at the moment.
I'm glad, Iris, that you are speaking up. And certainly remember, you are not an expert in dealing with ADHD. So if you feel sometimes that it's just becoming unmanageable, just remind yourself, that I'm not an expert to manage her behavior, because that's not your area of work is. Secondly, if she's doing something on purpose, which you're very much aware, rather than engaging, I think just you have to disengage yourself and be assertive on not entertaining to her needs and her demands. So when you kind of disengage, you will not experience, because what's happening, the more you engage, and as you said, I know at times you're not able to tolerate and you give it back to her because she's saying good words, but remember, she's doing it on purpose, as you said. So don't be, I think don't escalate it, is what I can say. Just disengage and have that assertiveness that you're intruding into my space, so we are not talking, time out, basically, and see if that helps you.
All right. So yeah, we can proceed with our meditation, Priya.
Sure. Thank you so much, guys. It was lovely to hear from you and
Yeah.
share that you have. Because of the short time, I think we'll stop here, but I have prepared a small mindfulness exercise for all of us this morning. Try and see and practice if this helps you to stop, basically, from that fight all the time in your mind, in your head. So, wherever you
Yeah.
are, try and sit up nice and tall. If you are in the NTR, if you are at some park, if you are in your room, wherever you are, try and just kind of sit straight, sit and relax. Relax your jaws. Let your shoulders relax down. Relax your back and focus your attention to your breath. Take a breath all the way in through your nose filling your belly with your breath. Then breathe all the way out through your nose. It is simple. So let's do it again. Start to breathe into a count of three. Inhale, put a count in your mind for one, two, three, and then exhale into the count of six. One, two, three, four, five. Let's do that again. Inhale to the count of three. I'm not going to count it for you. I want you to learn and count it for yourself. And exhale to the count of six. You can do backwards: six, five, four, three, two. Let's continue like this for three more breaths. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in again and breathe out. Try and channelize your breathing. And while we are doing this, a very simple step that I'm going to teach, it's called grounding with the mindful breathing, is where make a note of five things you can see around yourself. Make a mental note of five things that you can see around yourself. Moving forward, make a note of five things you can hear, except, sorry, four things, four different sounds that you can hear. Make a note of four different sounds that you can hear. Moving forward, three different things you can feel on your skin. It could be the feel of aircon, the fan. It could be the feel of your clothes that you're wearing, shoes, or a pen in front of you. Moving on, two different smells that you can make a note of. Two different types of smell. Do it without any judgment. That's just for you to make a note of. And last, that you have a taste of in your mouth. While you're doing this, you are activating your sense that helps you become more aware of yourself and ground yourself. And just close it with the last deep breath. Take a deep breath in at the count of three. Exhale to the count of six. Thank you so much. How are you
Right.
guys? I hope you enjoyed this.
Yes. Yeah. How did that feel, our audience? Share your thoughts and experiences in this meditation with Priya in the comment section. Yeah. After this session, we'll send you a follow-up email with with the session materials and resources. And a recording of today's discussion will be available in our Facebook page at Helper's Choice, our official page. For those who have not watched it, we encourage you to watch the replay. Also, your feedback is valuable, so please let us know your thoughts. Um, Priya is we will be posting the link for your feedback in the comment section. All right, just let us know for your feedbacks after the session.
Sure,
All right.
you will be
Go ahead,
doing.
Priya.
We'll be posting the link there.
Yes, we'll be posting the link for your feedbacks. And thank you, Priya, for your valuable insights today. As we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or advice for our viewers today?
What I would like to say that remember, guys, not every day is same. And whenever you feel puzzled, whenever you feel stuck, just take a deep breath. Remember, remember. I think the best thing that has happened to you on that day, and move on because things will change. Time will change. You are most precious to yourself. I think that's what we need to remember. So everything that happens with us will change with time.
All right. Yeah, Priya, we have like if you're for further information for the Zubin Foundation, you can plug the resources and your official page as well.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we're all good. So, thank you all for joining us today for this enlightening discussion and dealing with daily stress. Remember that taking care of your mental well being is just as important as your physical health. That's what Priya discussed a while ago. If you have more questions or need further guidance, reach out to organization like the Zubin Foundation for support. I have here their my contact information. Their number is 852-254-0958, and you can also send an email to info@zubinfoundation.org. And they're also available at Instagram, and their Facebook page is Zubin Foundation as well. So, right, we're all good. So, until next time, thank you so much, Priya, for having me today in our live. Take care and stress free. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. Bye bye,
Bye.
everyone.